In this video, we're going to walk through a process for creating a layout and materials plan for a boardwalk that's going to connect from this sidewalk to the entrance to this building right here. To get started, what we're going to do is we're actually going to type lay off to turn off some of the contours and the swale center line right here, just to kind of focus in and not have any competing line work. For this, we're going to do a really simple deck design, and it's going to start with the midpoint of this plaza and just connecting to perpendicular to the sidewalk right here. It's going to be 10 feet wide or somewhere thereabouts just to start. So we're going to offset this 5 feet in either direction. And we'll go ahead and just erase this line right here. Now for this project, it's going to have 2 sets of beams that will support from this side all the way across. We'll have our joist running this direction, our beams running east to west. We'll have a ledger that we're going to create right here. We're going to go ahead and put that piece in. So we're going to offset 2 feet off and just create a polyline right here that is going to essentially be a large block of concrete, a turned down footing that's going to allow us to connect our boards, our boardwalk, directly into this ledger right here. So I'll shorten up these 2 outside lines. To get started, what we're going to do is just offset these 2 lines 2 inches in. So just offsetting 2. That's going to be the width of our boards. They're going to be a 2 by something. We'll size those later. I'm also going to offset 2 feet or 2 inches rather this direction. I want to offset this line because I made it a polyline. It's going to offset on all sides. So I'll just come in really quickly, trim that line, trim this, and then delete the remaining piece here. For this ledger, we're going to go ahead and trim out this as well. And we'll have our ledger board essentially sitting all the way across and connecting into this turned down footing here. We need to start building some layers into this drawing. So for this, I'm going to create a few different layers in here. We'll first start with a new layer by clicking on our new layer icon here and just renaming this ledger. And just for the sake of kind of keeping things straight and making sure that I'm doing things on or putting them on the right layer, I'm going to go down to my ledger. I'm going to change this to yellow, which means I just click here, creating everything on our detail text layer, but I'm going to move this to the ledger layer right here. It should turn yellow. These right here, these are going to be our joist. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer for the joist as well. For now, we'll come back and change all these a little bit later, but for now, we're just going to make this particular layer red just so we can start visually separating things and making sure that we put things on the correct layers, even though we're going to come back and change them later for line work. We'll eventually have some beams, so we're going to create a new layer for that, call it beams. We'll go up to our beams layer, and we're going to change that from cyan. We'll just go to green for this. We're going to create a post layer as well. So P-O-S-T, we'll create that post layer. We'll change it to, let's go with white for now. Let's actually start creating that post. So we're going to start creating a few objects, then start aligning everything and putting it in here. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of off to the side, create this post. For this, I'm going to create a polyline. I'm just going to click and go 4 inches over. That's going to be the size of my post, a 4 by 4 post. And we'll just type 4 inches in each direction and then C space to kind of close this off. Let's go ahead and move this to our post layer. It should turn white. This post is actually going to sit on a concrete footing, and we're looking up at the top of this. So there's a few additional things that we're going to put in. If you look over here, we've got the X in our example, and that's going to mean that we're looking at the end grain of that post. And so we're going to put that same X in here. So we'll just type L space for a line and just create a line there and a line here. We will again put everything on a layer. So we're going to call this end grain. And we will come up here to make this red, which allows us to click on this end grain and put it on that layer, making sure that it's red. There's also going to be a concrete footing that this is sitting on. These examples have a smaller one. For us, it's going to be about a 24-inch deep one. And we're actually going to have it poking up out of the ground a little bit in our section. But nevertheless, those things come in 10, 12-inch diameter. Let's just do a 5-inch radius. So we'll type 5 inch and hit enter. That's going to be our 10-inch diameter concrete footing that's going to be below this. So let's also create a new layer for that. We'll call it concrete footing. And this is going to be one specific for the plan view. I'm going to make it yellow, and I also want to change the line weight of this to be dashed. So on that same concrete footing layer, we're going to come over and we're going to change the line weight from default, rather the line type from default, to one of these. We can do hidden, hidden 2. I'm going to do hidden 2 for now, and we'll just sort of assess how it's going to look in model space. So we'll go to concrete footing. Sure to turn this yellow. There's going to be a dash. Now, when we bring this into our paper space, that dash is actually going to show up, but for now, this is going to be sufficient. So I'm going to highlight all of these pieces right here. We're actually going to type block. What this means, it's going to put it into a group. We'll call that group post underscore plan. And we will pick a base point. Our base point, we'll just make it right in the middle, and we will create that block. So we can click on it. It's got our little pick point right here. We can move this thing around. We're ready to roll. All right, let's talk about the deck framing. With this, we want to have a rhythm to our deck. For me, we could check the distance on it. And we either have to do the distance from this ledger all the way across, or we can do from the concrete sidewalk all the way across. Visually, we're going to see this on the approach from the sidewalk. We'll sort of see how that's looking. I want to line it up with the center of the swale. And so what we're going to do is create a sort of line right here visually, and we're going to put our beam sets at about, let's say, 8 feet in from each side, which will leave a 14-foot gap in the middle. I'm going to offset these 8 feet, but again, I'm not going from the ledger itself. I'm just going right here, so that's 8 feet. We'll grab this line. It's not offsetting, at least as one singular line, so I'm going to create a new one and offset this 8 feet. What this is going to mean is that we've got an 8-foot, roughly an 8-foot joist right here, and then a 14-foot, if I measure this, a 14-foot joist right here, and then we'll have another 8-foot joist right here. This gives us sort of a maximum opening for water to kind of flow under this boardwalk right through here. Now that I've got this, I'm going to actually grab my post, and I'm going to grab it by the midpoint right here, and this is going to allow me to set it right here on our project. I'm then going to copy it from this endpoint, move it all the way to the other side, and we're going to set it on the outside. Now, I haven't quite talked about my approach to the decking boards. Let's just hold steady right here for now. I have a distance of 10 feet from here to here. My beam span is not going to be 10 feet. It's going to be closer to about 6 feet based on the calculations that I'm using for my lumber. So I can go up to 6 feet, no need to do that. I'm going to actually just trim this out. Oh, too much trimming. Trim this line and this line. This should mean that this is sitting about dead center, which is going to allow me to copy this from the center point and snap it to the middle right there, and I can actually have this beam set or these posts all in a line with roughly a 5-foot spacing between them. So let's do a distance, and it's going to be 4'10" to the middle, 5 feet if we go all the way across. So that is about a 4'10" on center spacing for my post. Let's go in and build the beams. So to do that, I'm going to put a beam here, come all the way across, put a beam here, go up, type 2, all the way over. We can even type the numbers in, 10, and then C space for close. What's great about doing the polyline is I just have to click once. It's going to select all of that right there. We'll come put this on our beam layer, and there we have it. So I've got this beam. I'm going to copy it from right here, go perpendicular, put this other beam here. Now we have a beam set right in that location. I can then grab this entire piece right here, copy it from the midpoint of that and snap it right to this point right here. And I've copied that entire beam set down. Let's go back up here. Now I've got these are just my outside joist. I'm actually gonna erase those so I don't have to do as much trimming. And I'm gonna come back and really focus on this ledger right here. So we'll say another polyline to where we can just build this all as one piece. And then C space for close. I'm gonna move it down just for the time being. Erase that, put this back on the ledger layer, and then move this back up to snap it to that ledger. I've got that created. I'm gonna copy it down, just clicking on the outside here, coming all the way down and snapping it to this turn down footing here. And if you look in, you can see this is essentially where I'm snapping it to, and we'll use a wedge anchor to bolt this piece in. All right, now it's time to put some joist in. I deleted the two outside joists because really I'm gonna run them to the beams right here. So let's go ahead and start with that first one. I'm doing a polyline again. I'm coming all the way down, snap into the end point here. We're gonna come over 2 inches. We're gonna go down here, and then we're gonna hit C space for close. Let's go ahead and put that on our joist layer. Should turn red. And we will copy this one from this point all the way over, snap it to that end point right there. Now, depending on our deck sizing, we might have 22 inch on center or 24 inch, we might have 16 inch, we might have 12 inch. Let's do 12 inch just to keep it nice and rhythmic as the on center. And what you're gonna notice is that when I copy this over this direction, all right, I'm gonna go all the way across. Now we can type it 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84, 96. And we'll do one more that should get us close to it. So 96 plus 12 is going to be 8. And when we find that this last one, if we were to copy it over another 12 with that 120, it's actually going to be on the outside. And so when we put these initial joists in, we've got to kind of figure out, all right, so we can't put this one on the outside. If we don't have this, what we've got is all of the spacing here is set up to where it is, rhythmic 12 inches on center, so from outside to outside or center to center. But on this one, we are actually only going 10 inches. So what are we going to do about it? A couple options here. We can just make our deck 2 inches wider. That's one option. We can move this over 1 inch, and what it's going to do is it'll have an 11 inch on center spacing on the outside. We'll go all 12s in the middle, and then we will end with another 11 inch. This just keeps it rhythmic, gives us some sort of balance. We'll copy this up and use this same joist approach for these next sections. Now, if I've done this right, this one should line up. Actually, no, it's not, because we moved that ledger board in. So we'll have to move all of these down. All right, now just how we stretched all of these down to fit that ledger, we're taking all these in the center and we're kind of stretching them up. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm just grabbing this end piece, bringing it straight up and making sure that it's snapping perpendicular. Keeps all of these joists as one set of polylines, and you can see how that framing is actually working there. There's a couple other things that we need to do, including putting in some blocking for in between the beam sets. So I'm going to create that blocking as well. Just grabbing this, using the existing board to snap to, pulling that down, matching properties where I click on the joist and then click here. And then what I'll do is I'll just copy this over from this endpoint to this endpoint and so on. In the case of this one right here, it's going to land right on the post, so no need for blocking there. We'll just kind of continue this down. I can also grab all of these, copy them by picking them up on the center point of that post and dropping them off at the center point of that post as well. The same thing is true for the blocking that might go across the decking this direction, especially in this section where the boards are pretty long and we might need some blocking about the midway point. Now this gets most of the framing outlined for our decking project. If we go back and look at this example right here, we're showing beams and posts and joist, and then we've obviously talked about the blocking that exists in between here. Let's talk about these joist hangers right here. This detail is calling out the joist hangers somewhere around here. It says Simpson face mount hangers model LUS 210, which is going to be their joist hanger for a 2x10 or approved equivalent install per manufacturer's recommendations. A great note, but we want to talk about how to visually show these pieces right here. As we go back to our plan, we're going to put joist hangers in at this spot here. I'm going to create a joist hanger that goes out, let's say this is 1.5 inches. That's probably a bit much, but it is visual, so we might say 1.5, and that's our joist hanger going out this direction. We'll also create another line here. We're going to come straight down. We'll do the same, 1.5. And we'll grab these pieces and we want to put them on a layer called joist hanger. So we'll create a new one. We'll say joist hanger. And we want to also change that color to something that is unique. Let's make them white. And I'm going to grab this and move it to the joist hanger layer. We'll see this bulk up as white, and what I'm going to do is type MI, and that's going to be my mirror tool. If I click the midpoint of this joist and just pull down, it's going to mirror that over. Do I want to erase the source objects? No. And so I'm going to have my joist hanger right here. I'm going to grab this and we will just start to copy these around. Make sure that you put them on a layer before you start copying them around. It's going to save you a lot of trouble. We'll do one section first, right here. And of course, as we get to the end, we might flip to an inverted joist hanger. We're going to delete that line off the end. We'll come back and copy this joist hanger as well. And similar to mirroring the joist hanger from one side to the other, I'm going to pick up and grab all of these pieces here. What's wonderful about all these things being polyline is I only selected the joist hangers when I did that. I'm then going to pick the midpoint of this post right here and just pull directly sideways. And you're going to see that we have just mirrored all of those joist hangers. Now, if I wanted to select all of these and copy them around, what I can do is engage the lay ISO command. This is going to allow me to isolate all of just the joist hangers by themselves. To undo that, we type lay uniso. When you type it, it could be that your settings are the default to where when you open it up and type in lay ISO, it lets you click the objects. But I'm going to type the letter S and go to the settings. And we can either choose off, which is what I have it set to, it turns every other layer off, or lock and fade. Let's change it to that. And so we'll keep the fade at 50%. And now when I click my joist hangers, it locks all the other layers. I can select them, but I can't really move them, but they're still visible. That's going to be really helpful for grabbing all of these and copying up our joist hangers. And so I can still snap to all the other line work right here. I can then grab all of this together, copy it down. We'll say from the center of this post to the center of that post. And then again, the same thing where I grab just this top row right here, copy it from the endpoint here to the ledger right there. And we've copied all our joist hangers around. We can say lay un-ISO to bring back all the layers, and we've got those in there. Let's go check out our plan to see how it's working. I've got my layout and materials plan here. And if I zoom in, I can already see that dash line showing up. I'm going to go to our page setup manager. So we'll say File, Page Setup Manager. We'll go to Edit, and we're going to double check that we have the MSU LA plot styles in here. And this is going to be great because it's going to allow us to go to Plot. And then what we can do is go to Preview. It's going to open up a preview of what this is looking like. And based on all of the colors, you can see that that white for the joist hanger, super heavy on here. If I can pan around and find it there. And so the line weights are working and the layers are working, but it is not where we want it to be just yet. So we'll find a time to really fine tune and tweak all of these layers. Because they're on layers, I can go through and just sort of adjust only the colors, and it's going to change it throughout the entire drawing. So let's exit out of that. We'll come back here and we will just cancel that and go back to our model space. Let's put in the blocking and just kind of go ahead and wrap this drawing up. For the blocking, I'm going to just start at the midpoint, go right across here, offset. Let's go 2 inches. I'm going to give a little bit of spacing just to show how that blocking alternates. I might keep it just like this. I'm going to type REC for rectangle, and I'm going to set one block right here. Hit spacebar again to repeat rectangle, and I'm just creating these alternating blocking rectangles using those grid lines that we already have on here. So again, REC for rectangle, and then I'm just clicking and creating all the rectangles. These essentially are polylines, which is what we were doing earlier. Now if I click on this guideline that I was using and this guideline that I was using and this middle one, you can see that I've got the blocking alternating right there. Let's go ahead and put it on a layer as well. So we'll create a new one, we'll call it blocking. We will change the color of the blocking to yellow, sure. And let's change it to yellow, and then select all this and put it on that blocking layer. What I like about changing the colors, you can confirm that you've put it on the layer when you've done that. Now, one of the other things that this is showing, this example, is it's showing all the hardware for the nuts and bolts in this plan view. And that can be an important thing if we're zoomed in close enough. On ours, we're kind of caught in between, probably too far out to really see a lot of that stuff. But if you were to do a zoom in of your deck detailing, this would be an appropriate time to show the bolts. Another thing is the technology or the approach that they're using. They've got joist hangers right here, but the outside joist actually attached to the outside of the post, and that's called a rim joist. And so that's going to be a different approach than what we're using right here in this example. Let's talk about the decking boards and actually doing some decking boards across here and how that might work. I'm going to keep it super simple. I'm going to create a decking board that is going to be this length right here. What we're going to use is just a basic 5/4 decking board. That's 5¼ inch or 5/4, so 1 1/4 inch thickness. That's the nominal thickness, and then a 6-inch nominal width there. And so what we're going to do, we'll create that line. We're just going to offset 6 inches down. We'll do a 1/4 inch gap between them, so offset 0.25, and that creates this new line right here that is the gap between these boards. I will then offset another 6 inches for this board. This rhythm kind of gets us going with our decking boards. What I'll do is, similarly, I need to really create these as one large rectangle. So I guess in this case, I'm going to come back and say PL for polyline. And better yet, we'll use the rectangle approach, REC. Click, and then click all the way down here. We'll do it again, REC, and create another rectangle. And what's important is I've got those lines underneath, so I'm going to actually grab these 2 rectangles, move them down, and just erase those guidelines that I was using. Now I can actually copy these up. I'm going to select the top one. This is a helpful tip. So we select the top decking board, say CO for copy, but instead of picking it up anywhere or even on the board itself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick it up at this 1/4 inch gap right here, so that when I bring up or pan up, I can drop it off on this decking board and it keeps that 1/4 inch gap. And then we can do that for all of these and create a stretch of decking boards. What I like about this right here is that they're indicating that there's sort of this swoop in the decking. And so it's like, hey, this drawing is mostly about the framing that's underneath, but we want to have a chance to talk about the decking boards on top. This is where we've got a decision to make. We could leave the decking boards off entirely and just make this about the framing plan. We could then have a separate plan off to the side that just shows the decking boards, and we can put the hardware in there and just have that as a standalone plan. Or we could try to do what this drawing is doing and be a little fancier, trying to showcase all of it in the same drawing. For the sake of just this and trying to figure out, or test something out, what we're going to do is this approach. And so I'm going to cut a little swoop in here. We'll just say A space for an arc. And let's see if we can just create a cool looking arc through this. All right, I think this will work. Now I haven't put any of these on a layer. We're going to call them decking boards. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll create a new layer. We'll say decking boards. And I'm going to change the color just so I know that I've put them all on a layer. We'll put it on a green layer, sure. Grab all these lines, including this little break line that I've created, and put it on decking boards. All right. Now what I want to do is really trim out all these decking boards, but I want all the other stuff to go away so that as I'm trimming it, it's not using the joist in this case as a trim cut line. So what we're going to do is we're going to say lay ISO. We'll hit S for settings. In this case, I'm going to go back to the off, and we will say, let's say in paper space, we'll do the viewport freeze. We'll save that for later. This allows me to kind of click here. Now as I trim, I can just kind of click these lines and trim them all based on that cut line. Erase all these that are just stragglers hanging out here. Make this line a little bit shorter. Come up here and make that a little bit shorter. We'll say lay uniso to bring it back in place, and we can see how that's kind of looking there. I want this to go a little further. So we'll give it a line to extend to and erase that back out. The next step is to put in some screws. We're going to be really hyper specific on these screws. The first thing that I want to do is create some guidelines right here that are going to help us align these screws up. So the first thing, I'll bring my snaps back, snap to the midpoint, and pull straight down. And so I have something to snap into here. We're going to put 2 screws in here, and so we'll put it 1/3 and 1/3 of the way in. This is a 6-inch board. So what I'm going to do is just offset 2. This will allow me to do this We'll get some lines to kind of pull off there and there. Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know, 2 screws. Let's see how it looks. Right here, we'll say something relatively small. And we'll grab this circle and copy it from the midpoint to the midpoint right here. If I delete these out, I already know that I don't like it because I'm typically putting these screws a little closer. So let's move it 1 inch up. Move this one 1 inch down. Feel better about that. Let's roll with it. We can get too cute with it if we're not careful. So let's create a new layer. We'll call it screws. We've got our screws layer. We're going to change this to red. Better yet, let's change it to white. And I'm going to put these 2 things on that layer. All right, now that we've got 2 screws in the right location, it is going to be just a lot of copying around. So we'll say CO. I'm copying from the center of this joist to the center of this one to the center of this one. And we're just going to keep on marching down the line. If you get tired of it, you can grab this whole bank of them, copy from the center of this joist, and then just come on down, paste it right there, and then just march on down. And paste a few more. All these excess ones, easy to grab. We can just delete those out. Next thing we'll do is grab all of these again. Oh yeah, so here's a helpful thing to remember. I copied all these over, but because I had this spacing right here, these are all off. So we'll grab these again. Only copy the ones that are in this particular section. Paste those there and come back and delete these. So things like that happen, but it's the beauty of CAD. We can kind of move quickly and fix that error. I'm going to copy these down from the decking boards and just kind of keep placing them at each of these endpoints. All right. So we've got these in here. What I'm going to do, we're going to go back to lay ISO. I'm going to select these things. In this case, I'm going to select both the decking boards and the screws and do lay ISO. It's going to allow me to kind of visualize all of the screws that fall out of our project or our decking boards right here. We'll just delete all of those. And we can say lay on ISO. Now, we've got all our decking boards in. This is great. But what do you notice? The lines for the joist, they become dash lines underneath, right? That hidden line type, super light, so that we don't kind of have all that stuff competing. Takes a little effort to do it, but we can do it. What we're going to do is we are going to trim out these joists right here. We'll just do this section just to demonstrate. We will expand the lines back up. So let's do this. We find some moments just to break these lines. So that we can get this joist as a standalone line. We can get this joist line as a standalone line. What this allows us to do is to create a new layer. We'll call it the hidden framing. And we'll go to that hidden framing. We're going to put it all on. We know we're going to change this to one of our screening layers, probably something like this. We're going to come back here. We're going to change the line type from here to hidden to. And what we'll do is we'll come put this line and this line on that hidden framing line. It's going to give us a lighter line, and then once we've made that change, we can just expand that line back up, and we can expand all these lines, frankly. So I am going to just kind of demonstrate it for this one. We'll go back to our framing plan, and you can see that we've got sort of that light dashed line that's underneath. I'm going to finish this out for all these other pieces of joist that are underneath by, again, just kind of trimming the joist there so that I can extend these back down. And then of course we'll trim all of these as well. All right, so that gives us that look with the lighter boards underneath. Last step is figuring out some labels. And as we get ready to do this, there's a couple ways to approach this. We can label it all on this larger layout and materials plan. So I've come to this view, I've got it framed up, and this is my overall site plan. It's going to show all of the components, including the existing contours, that swale center line that's in here. And so we'll have all of those pieces together. What I want to do is actually unhide, or actually turn those layers off again. So we'll come back to the plan, and what we're going to do is we'll turn them off to get them out of that view. And let's see what it would look like if we were to do this. Click on the layout materials plan. I'm double clicking here. We are at 1/4 inch equals a foot. So what I'm going to do is double click outside of this, come back to my tab here. We'll using the detail template. We are at 1/4 inch equals a foot. And so I'm going to come into our dim style, and we are going to find 1/4 inch right here, and we're going to say set current. If you're on a PC, that's going to be clicking set current in the top right. That's an important step. It's going to confirm that that is where we're at. We can type in leader, and this is where we can point to something, come out to the side, and we're going to type in this, which is a 4x4 pressure treated southern yellow pine post. And then we'll say maybe something about C detail, and what we can do is include the actual detail number and call out in it. We'll do that in just a second. But what this does is it gives us that call out when we go to our layout and materials plan sheet. You can see that that text is going to come up at an appropriate size. Let's go ahead and put the call out on there as well, so we know we're doing 1/4 inch. If I go to my detail template, it is 1/4 inch equals a foot is a scale factor of 48. So we'll grab this stuff right here, copy it up. We want to set it off to the side of the project. SC for scale, click a base point. I'm clicking the bottom left so that when we scale it up, kind of fly out that direction. And we can use this right here to be our sort of detail call out. Now for me, detail template's fine. This call out size is fine. I'm a big fan of taking all of these and making them somewhere in the range of like 50% the size or 75%. Let's not go crazy. We're gonna say 0.75 is the scale factor. It's gonna shrink all of these down so that now I can grab this. I just feel better about the size of it. I'm gonna drop it off to the side. I'm going to grab this detail and move it further over so that I can then pull this out and pull this over. Again, pointing to that, but reason I'm pulling it that way is so that I can put this detail call out on here. You can slide that over, move this over, just kind of setting this one perfectly so that I feel great about it, and I can copy everything else down. For all future notes, I'm going to line them up with the same sort of kick point right here. I'm going to end my detail right here. That is a way to kind of do this right here. It's going to size it up perfectly for our layout materials plan. You'll see all this in there. I could even grab my section cut line. I know I'm going to do a bioswell section. I can just bring this over here, probably put it right there. Let's grab it. This too. We'll rotate from the center point of that circle, turn on ortho this direction, and I'm going to just copy this piece down, and we'll put that section cut ending right there. So with my section cut, I can actually make it all one solid line for my bioswell. I can do it as a break in between. Just depends on how intense your project is. But those are two different approaches for doing that section cut line right here. I'm also going to have a section cut that's going straight through the boardwalk, so we'll have another one there. That's probably the instance to where you wouldn't show all of the pieces of that line. Let's just sort of drag this over, and we'll do that, surely. Something like that will work. I'm going to undo that. We'll figure it out later. All right, this is one approach. Now, I'm actually going to show a different approach altogether. Let's go into a rectangle that is going to call out the framing plan. So I'm going to create this rectangle right here. We're going to take a fillet radius, 24 inch. We'll put a little circle around this. This is going to be an example of like how you might call out a detail within a larger layout materials plan. So in this case, what I'm going to do is pull this out. We'll trim this. Can't trim it, so I'll explode it. Erase, trim, and we're just going to point to this. Maybe go just straight across like that and point to it. This is going to be a detail call out. I don't really have a dashed line type for that, so I'm going to make this my detail call out. We'll come up here. We're going to slide over, make that a dashed line as well. We'll do a larger dash. And yeah, detail call out. And so it's going to dash this line, and we're kind of pointing to that dash line. I might make this one solid again, just kind of pointing to it. This is going to say, hey, we are calling out this detail, and we'll just give it a name. We'll say framing plan and click save. And this is going to call out that particular framing plan. I'm going to come to my, let's say, details page right here. I'm going to erase two of these blocks and create a detail for this framing plan. But I'm going to move it off to the side. We'll make it sort of a standalone piece. We'll grab all this, copy, pull this up this direction, and put it right here. What I'm doing, maybe the bigger question, why am I even doing this to begin with, just allows me to do a larger scale. I can zoom in on this. Or if you remember, our layout materials plan was quarter scale. So what if we were to go into half scale? Now I can see quite a bit more of this. You might even say, what if we were to erase all of these blocks out and just do one kind of larger framing plan right here that allows us to call out all the pieces, put all the labels off to the side. Let's just give it a shot, see what happens. For this, I did 1/2 inch equals a foot. This is my detail frame for 2 wide, 3 tall. And so I'm going to copy this over, say 1/2 inch equals a foot is a scale factor of 24. Put this here. Scale, click a base point, type 24. Now I've got this frame. I can kind of put that frame right there and use this as my place to call all this stuff out. We said we'll do a dim style. We'll set it to 1/2 inch, set current, and we can begin to put in a leader, point to our ledger here, here, 2 by question mark ledger board to be secured with 1/2 inch wedge anchor and nut / washer at 12-inch OC TYP. So something like that, right? We're gonna think through those labels. We'll put this off to the side, and then we are just labeling this thing up. We've got a lot to talk about. We're gonna talk about the joist hangers. We're gonna talk about the joist. We're gonna talk about the, in this case, joist hanger, joist, all that sort of stuff. We just spray all these things off to the side and down below. We've got a lot of room on this side, so we can stretch this out. There's a few different approaches for how you might plan to attack this. We also need to put some dimensions, some typical dimensions. We've got our same dim style on, so we can do this like overall dimension right here. We can also go from just the joist itself here to here. We can do an on-center spacing of this to the concrete. Shows that 8 feet. Got this center to center. Remember, as you're doing these, to snap to the previous dimensions. Here and here. So we can snap right there. You see all these numbers lining up. So this is the second way. This is going to say, hey, we are creating a standalone framing plan that's going to show all the information. I honestly like this approach better. This would probably be the thing that I would do, because as you notice, we got a lot of things to call out in here. It is going to get really muddy in here, but to each his own. All right, let's talk about ways to elevate this. Move these posts in, right? We can move this in 11 inches. Set this right here. We can move this blocking out 11 inches, put that right on the edge. Gives us a chance to kind of suck in the post, hide them. We could grab the beams as they are cantilevered off. Let's flip this back. I could even grab the beams in this case and pull these out another 16 inches. This gives me a chance to, one, do a decorative piece on it, but also potentially attach the a railing or something like that. So got different options, all sorts of things you can do as you kind of wrapping this up. This gives us the basics for doing our framing plan, putting in the detail callouts, putting in the labels, putting in the dimensions, all that good stuff, and kind of getting a good healthy start on this. We've got all the layers to be able to adjust line weights. Feel great about that. We'll use this guide down here to sort of help us, or really any of these. We can reference our layers and the line weights here just to get all these things right. White is going to be terrible, but yeah, this is going to be our start to kind of getting this boardwalk in place. Good luck with it. Look forward to seeing what everybody comes up with on this project.